Disclosure. That's what everybody wants. All we want to know from the US government and the UK government and other governments around the world is, what do you know about aliens? And thus far, we've got nothing, with Pentagon reports even backing this up, saying that there is no evidence of alien life or civilizations or craft on this planet or within communication with us. But we don't believe that. And the reason we don't believe that is because we've been fed lies in the past, and also there is evidence out there that backs otherwise. Before we get into this video though, I want to announce to you guys that we're going to be going live every Wednesday night and every Friday night at 8 PM UK time, and it's a good opportunity for you guys to get involved with the videos like this where we talk about certain topics and you guys can get involved with it live. I know a lot of people don't get notified for live streams, so here's me announcing it to you right now. And also, we've just rebooted the membership, so if you want to become a member and get involved, support the channel, but also get so much back in return, get down in the description where there will be a link. You can check out what tier you want to become and what feedback, what result, and what perks you will be getting in return. Anyway, let's get into today's video. So, there have been multiple people who have been pushing for disclosure on the alien topic and putting so much pressure on the government to disclose to the general public about what they know. And one of these people being Ross Coulthart, another being Dr. Stephen Greer, and another being Representative Tim Burchett. We're going to be looking at all of these guys today because over the past couple of days, they've had some very, very hot takes regarding this topic. The first one that we're going to look at is from Ross Coulthart, who says on his News Nation podcast that he's starting to do recently, he goes on to talk about how whistleblowers will start to come forward more and more. Obviously, this does come after David Grush came forwards and he kind of trailblazed and showed that it was okay to come forward regarding these topics. But Ross Coulthart doesn't think it's going to end there. Let's take a little listen to what he's got to say.
It seems as if there is pretty solid insider certainty that there is irrefutable evidence that the US government is indeed being dubious on this issue. Why then can you not please provide this credible evidence to the public? This issue will not press forward when there is a possible debunk. And I completely agree with you. I think the whole UAP social media community is just going to have to be a lot more patient. Truth will out. Whistleblowers will come forward. But they need time. I'm in conversation with some of them at the moment where they're wrestling with that decision. A number of them are going through the DOPSA process, applying for the Defence Office pre-publication security review approval system, like David Grush did.
Now, obviously, I'm just going to pause it there. This whole topic is crazy because you got to think, a whistleblower doesn't just come forward and say, I've got this information, I can prove it through X, Y, and Z. There's a lot at risk when they do this. First of all, they might not be listened to or believed. Then, their credibility is on the line. Secondly, their job security is also on the line if they come forward. Because you got to think, if you're in the armed forces, for example, and you come forward about something that you're not supposed to come forward about, or you're, under contract not to talk about, you're going to lose your job. It's as simple as that. And, there is this whole disclosure security measure that Ross Coulthart goes on to talk about, but it's a lengthy process, and also you've got to be vetted, you've got to be, it's a lengthy process in which you don't necessarily always get through it. And what I mean by that is you can apply for it, you can go through all the process, and you might not be get afforded that kind of security. So there's a lot to weigh up if you're a whistleblower.
That they can get clearance to speak before a public hearing of Congress. It's a hell of a lot safer for them than it is for them to appear on national television in obvious breach of their security clearance and their NDA. And look, I was sad to hear from Tim Burchett that he's also had threats from people who are impatient with the pace of change and the pace of transparency and accountability. I've had the same problem. I've had people outright threaten me in really appalling ways because they're just frustrated and angry that things aren't going as fast as they would like. I've had a lot of people say to me, I should just say I know where this large UAP craft is located. And I've explained very strong reasons exist for why that particularly national security sensitive installation shouldn't be revealed. Ultimately, we're all part of a very good alliance, the Five Eyes alliance, that has kept world peace and security since the end of World War II. The Yakuza Agreement, the Five Eyes, an alliance between my country, Australia, and the United States, England, Canada, New Zealand. It's really important. And for the good reason, we don't want to jeopardise vital national security concerns. So there has to be a balance. And even though people would love me as a journalist just to come out and spew everything I know about the subject, I actually do think there are very good reasons to be cautious. But I do think there's reason for optimism. And I think we can only wait and see what comes out of Congress and other quarters.
See, he's very diplomatic with his response there, and I completely understand why. Obviously, he's alluded to him knowing a lot more than he lets on, which I have no doubt. But this man is a reporting journalist. He's spoken to many, many people regarding this topic. And, you know, he's even said that he has spoken to people within the Arrow report that came out of the Pentagon a few weeks ago and has got the stories. And he, if they're not released by the Pentagon, he is very happy to just release that information. But of course, you know, you don't want to put a big target on your back. And you've got to be very careful because, you know, it's not uncommon for people to speak out about this topic to miraculously end up going missing. And that's just the reality of it. And it's a sad reality because, you know, there should be safety in, you know, freedom of speech and, you know, public information, but it's not. It's just as simple as that. It's not as black and white as that. And also, you've got to think as well, you know, you've got all of this information that, you know, Ross alludes to having. And if he was to spew it on national TV for the world to see, it does pose an element of national security risk from other countries, for example, who want their hands on that kind of technology. They start probing, they start asking all these questions. You know, and I don't want to get political. I'm not going to out any country because, you know, it's not my place to do that. But, you know, we all know who would get involved and we all know what would possibly happen. It could become a catastrophe. So I understand that element. But at the same time, the general public, you don't have to say what you've got specifically. You can just say, yes, there is something. But you don't have to disclose exactly what. At least it's something for the general public to be like, we knew it. But that's not going to be the case. But Dr. Stephen Greer, he's got a very, very opinionated decision on when he thinks the disclosure is going to happen. Obviously, Dr. Stephen Greer has dedicated his life and career to the disclosure of UAPs, UFOs, and all of this stuff. He's, you know, one of the biggest people on this whole situation. But we're going to take a little look at what he said.
And I think that's really in the hands of every man, woman, and child on the planet. So I think the responsibility, ironically, yes, our leaders and these very powerful interests do have a lot of responsibility. But I agree with you. With each new administration or new leader in another country, these are the people who do disclose. And I've been saying for 20 years, I mean, remember the 2001 Disclosure Project Press Club event, I did because I had already decided and concluded that the governments of the world won't do it unless we do it first. So if the people lead, the leaders will follow. So we, the people, have to provide the impetus, the leadership, the vision. And I think that is a message of empowerment. It sort of scares people because people would rather sit in front of their television looking at TV and eating Cheetos. But in reality, this is a call for people to pick up this responsibility themselves. Everybody else, have someone else do it.
I think this is great, right? And the message so far is amazing. You know, the people lead, the leaders will follow. You know, if we disclose it, they've got no choice but to disclose it, essentially. But the problem therein lies is we don't have the information required to disclose anything. We know nothing. Like, we can speculate, of course. We can, create conspiracies. but we don't know anything. Like, we've not got that ammunition to fire out of the barrel. Like, we can load the gun, but it can be full of misinformation, opinions, and speculation. We can fire it for sure, but you're going to get laughed at. Whereas, I think that's where the issue lies. We don't have the information to disclose. And the only people that do have the facts, the hard facts and the evidence, are the people that won't disclose it. That's the problem.
No, everyone listening to this needs to understand you are not you, but all of us together are responsible for disclosure, for funding and supporting zero-point energy systems, for making contact with these civilizations. You don't need, if you want permission, I will give you permission. You have permission to make contact with these civilizations on behalf of the human race. You don't need the head of Army Intelligence to say, yes, you can, or the president. You're a child of Earth and you can do this, and this is what people have to do. So I think it's more about us taking responsibility for ourselves, our planet, and our future, and not look to the fact that Big Brother somewhere is going to do this for us, because that kind of dependency is a trap. I think we have to be in charge of disclosure. We have to be in charge of releasing these technologies, and we have to be also, we the people, in charge of an interplanetary peaceful diplomatic initiative, which is really how I started, why I got involved with all this. It wasn't disclosure. It's creating conscious people who understood the nature of the cosmos and the conscious universe within us. And there's
I think we need the maturation of the human race. We need to gain some wisdom. I think that's
we have the wisdom. We just have to own it.
Yes.
Okay. All the knowledge and all the wisdom we need to make this leap into a new civilization exists today. Right. All the technologies we need to have a sustainable, high-tech civilization we have today. It's all there. The missing link is the courage, the integrity, the vision to do it. There are people who are very...
I think the sentiment is right, but again, we just don't have we have the know-how, but we don't have the information to disclose this kind of thing. But, I completely agree with every other point made so far is, be your own leader. Take initiative, take things into your own hands if it's safe to do so, obviously. I'm not going to encourage people to go put like tin foils on the top of the high-rise building to create communications with aliens, because that would just be silly. But, if it's safe to do so and you're not going to get yourself in any trouble doing it and it's legal,
supportive
then go for it.
Of this disclosure happening. The problem is moral support and taking dispositive action are two different things. And I think that the courage and integrity and willing to take the hit to your reputation.
And maybe your pension.
Look at the things that are said about me. There aren't a lot of people who, it's one thing if you, whatever, but there aren't a lot of folks who give up their professional career or their political career. And so, to give you one little vignette, I had a meeting for about 11 hours with one of the deputy directors of the National Science Foundation and one of the 5 directors of NASA some years ago. And they were very, very supportive and interested in this. And they were dealing specifically with climate change and the problems with the biosphere. And the one was in charge of all the satellite imaging of the biosphere. And she told me back then that if the public knew how much trouble we were in, there'd be widespread panic. But I said, well, will you help us? And they said, no, this whole subject is too controversial and dangerous. It'd be the end of our careers. So I thought to myself, my career is here, the future of the human race and the planet is here. And so they choose their careerism. So at a certain point, people have to make a decision. This was the very hard decision I had to make a few years ago about my own career. Will I stay as an emergency doctor and have a comfortable upper middle class life doing this and that and the esteem of people for doing what I'm doing, or become, as Lawrence Rockefeller told me I would be, sort of the court jester and made fun of and demeaned and defamed. But, I made the decision, I don't really care, what other people think. I care about what the right thing is to do. But that's very hard to find in the upper echelons of these bureaucracies, government, and corporations. This is why I keep returning to the fact that, yes, there are a lot of people following disclosure, a lot of people supportive, but they don't want to lead it. Remember my story about Lawrence Rockefeller making his fingers like this, talking about the flock
Not
of
even
geese.
he wanted to lead it.
He was towards the end of his life. He wanted to be way back here. He didn't want to be up here. So I think the people need to take this leadership. The people need to do this. And I think the more that we empower ourselves and get out of this mindset that someone's going to do it for us, the better off we're going to be. It's time for us to come together as a planet, as a people. I hope Gaia can be instrumental in this in the future, to organize a global movement to see that happen. Because, really very quickly, this planet could be taken from the path it's on into a path of enlightenment and sustainability that'd be just amazingly beautiful.
Now that would be wonderful, and that is obviously, in an ideal world, that's what everyone wants. We want a world of enlightenment and endearment and happiness and sustainability. But people are, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, people are egocentric. People are selfish to a degree. There are some very selfless people out there, but as a race, typically humans are selfish. They're out for themselves. No one is going to sacrifice an upper middle class like Stephen Greer did, and a comfortable life, not just for them but for their children and to pass on through generations, over being laughed at. No one wants that, because we're in a society where money is the lube of life. Literally, it is. If you've got money, you're going to live a comfortable, happy life. If you haven't, you're gonna struggle, and it's a horrible way to live and to kind of view society, but unfortunately that's just how it is. Anyway, moving forwards, Representative Tim Burchett, obviously we all know who he is. He's an absolute G when it comes to trying to get disclosure in Congress and stuff like this. But he said that someone on Capitol Hill urged him not to pursue UFO transparency because, quote, people couldn't handle it. There would be riots. He says the consensus among congressmen is that UFOs originate from non-human intelligence. Now, basically what he's saying is everybody knows what the truth is about these UFOs, but nobody wants to talk about it because widespread panic. And this is the whole, we've heard it across all three clips that we've watched so far. Dr. Stephen Greer, Tim Burchett, and can't even remember who I watched first. Oh, Ross Coulthart. Widespread panic is what everyone talks about because no one wants disclosure because the fear of widespread panic. Well, maybe that's not going to be the case, but this is what government leaders believe to be the case.
I was told that. It was kind of weird. I was in the tunnel, one of the tunnels, Capitol. They're public, they're open now since COVID, whatever, after COVID, and it was kind of weird. A guy walked up to me that I knew and said, Tim, he said, we really don't need to put this stuff out. And I was like, what? He said, yeah. He said, people couldn't handle it. There'd be riots. And I'm like, riots by who? I could go to East Knoxville and have a forum on it. I could go to West Knoxville and have a forum. I could go to Loudoun, Lenoir City, Dandridge, wherever. I can Claiborne County or Granger County. You know what? People would say, I think there's something out there. I want to know the dadgum answer. I don't care their color, their socioeconomic background, or anything else.
I agree. I know we're basically already touching up on it, but with the UAP task force set up, is there a consensus that this is non-human intelligence, that these are not anything relative to this earth or created on this earth?
Among congressmen there is, I feel, but I don't believe in the intelligence community they're permitted to say that.
Interesting thoughts and opinions there, isn't it, really? And, it's wild that we're not allowed disclosure because of the fear of widespread panic, which is speculative. We don't know that there'll be widespread panic, but, the thought is that there would be, but we don't know that for certain, and they're not willing to take that gamble or risk. They rather hold their cards close to their chest and have the monopoly over the situation. But I found this is quite a comical clip. This clip is like, it's how people probably would. It is how I would act, at least. It's like how people would probably act if there is full disclosure. So, POV: the U.S. government confirms aliens are real.
You guys see the news? Yeah, government just confirmed aliens are real. So, I mean, do we have to go into work on Monday? Or I feel like this should change a lot of stuff. Like we should do different things, but I don't know what else to do besides buy things and watch TV. I'm not too worried about the aliens. I feel like if they were gonna kill us, they would have done that by now, right? I just got off the phone with my boss. I get to take a half day on Monday if I want to use PTO. Something travels across the fucking universe to contact humans, and we're using New Year's Eve rules for fucking work. It's a nightmare. I mean, who do we send to talk to them? I assume they're gonna ask for our leader, and I am not confident Biden can handle that, honestly. I don't know, maybe Joe Rogan? I don't think that's a great option, but it's legitimately the only one I can think of for some reason. U.S. government just tweeted out that everyone is gonna be given a mandated lead vest. The fuck does that mean? Hey, Tommy in the other room just puked up some green gunk, so either he had some bad Chipotle or there is an alien baby in his tummy. Either way, let's keep an eye on that. Anyone else's Wi-Fi password changed to Glorbark is our overlord? The fuck was that? I think it's coming from outside. I don't... Okay, they're coming in. They're coming in. Holy shit. Oh my god. Before they get through the wall, I want to let you know that I did eat all your Ben & Jerry's, but that doesn't seem that important now anymore, does it? There's aliens outside. Okay, stop crying.
It's literally like no one would care. Like, I mean, they would obviously care. It would change the whole of humanity. Like, we would have to, the perspective on humanity and life and the universe would completely change and alter. But ultimately, day-to-day life would continue, wouldn't it? Eventually, like, when we understand what's going on, like, there'll be a cooling off period, if you will, where we get told that there's aliens, and then there'll be this period of, like, well, what happens next? And then life would just continue. Nothing would change. And, you'd still have to go to work Monday to Friday. I don't know when you work, but you'd still have to do your 9 to 5. The world keeps on spinning. Like, doesn't really change much unless, like, they're here to destroy the planet. But like we said, that would have been done already. I don't know. The whole thing is backwards, in my honest opinion. Nothing seems straightforward or legitimate anymore, but what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on the matter. And do you think we're going to get disclosure in 2024? I think there's something coming. Something's a brewing, but it's not going to... I don't think it's going to come from any kind of, government official body. I think it's going to come from someone else. That's my hot take on it. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. While you're down there, be sure to jump together the hell out of that like button if you have not already. Subscribe if you're new. And tickle my little bell so you get notified whenever we upload. And until next time, guys, I hope that you have enjoyed. I cannot wait to see you in the next one. And I'll spook to you later. Peace.